Ever wondered why the love stories shown in the Marvel Cinematic Universe always work? Well, I did some research and perhaps through this video you'll get a definitive answer too. But before we jump onto answering why it works, maybe I should clear out the question more about what I actually mean by a successful movie love story. Here is what I mean. If a love story portrayed by two actors some way or the other leaves a mark on you just by their expressions or dialogues, it means the love story worked. So in this video, I'm going to explain the Marvel formula of every love story they have done and why it succeeded. Let's start by listing out the couples we have in the MCU. Tony Stark and Pepper Potts, Thor and Jane Foster, Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter, Bruce Banner and Natasha Romanoff, Scarlet Witch and Vision, Peter Parker and MJ. Now let's take a look at each of their love stories and you'll find the Marvel formula laid just in front of your eyes. Tony Stark and Pepper Potts. One is an incredibly genius backed by his billions of dollars of wealth, and the other is just a regular person who works and takes care of his everything. So how exactly did this love story manage to leave such a strong mark on the audience? Here is how they do it. Even though Tony Stark was witty, arrogant, and selfish in person, but he never really stopped caring about Pepper Potts. It gets established pretty early in the movie Iron Man 1, where Tony asks Pepper to get something for her birthday from him, to which Pepper comfortably replies she already did. Now this establishes a relationship between these two that can be felt by the audience, that even though they're not in love yet, but they genuinely care for each other. And what this does is, it gives the relationship more value and meaning to it. So when they finally admit to falling in love with each other, they're not just becoming lovers from being complete strangers. They were working together, still caring about each other, but now they're taking it one step forward. And when this finally happens, the audience buys the love story and it feels much more genuine. Imagine if they had shown Tony already flirting with Pepper from the beginning of the movie without establishing any backstory. What that would have done is give the audience a vibe that Tony is into Pepper Potts, but she is still taking time to give in. Hence, what previously would have been two friends falling in love with each other now becomes just two different people falling in love. See the difference? It counts when it's being shown in a 2 hours long movie. Now here is another big reason why Tony and Pepper's love story works. It's because Pepper is the only one in Tony's life who is able to put Tony in his place. If he's being stubborn, too hard to handle, you call Pepper. And the thing is, he listens to her too, almost as if he knows she won't do any harm to me, so I better be listening to her. He resists, but eventually gives in to her command. For someone as powerful as Tony Stark with his wealth and genius tech, someone to be like Pepper Potts, keeping him in boundaries is necessary. The last formula Marvel executes in this love story is they did not stretch this relationship furthermore in the same movie. They left it hanging, making the audience anticipate more by giving them less, but just enough to make it believable. And that's how Iron Man 1 ends with none of them officially being in a relationship, but only giving hints that they just might. So if we sort out these three formulas, then this is what we end up with. Nobody just falls in love without establishing an attachment beforehand. They keep each other in limits as well as pushing to go out of the box to find a solution. It takes time to develop a love story, and we can see all three of these are being implemented while writing the story of Tony Stark and Pepper Potts. Which brings us to Thor and Jane Foster, Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter. These two love stories are almost parallel to each other. Thor, who is a god who lived most of his life getting attention, getting everything that he needs without any struggle, finds love in a partner who does not love him for what he was, but what he is becoming into. On the other hand, Steve Rogers, who lived most of his life getting ignored, disrespected, and not really valued enough, finds his one true love in someone who gives him attention, who listens to his ideas, as well as love him for what he is, not what he wants to become. Which ticks the number one formula again, that nobody becomes a couple just from being strangers. Then we see Thor learning life isn't just about dominating and winning, but also about giving and caring about each other. He went from a god who wants revenge and throne to someone who is even ready to give his own life to save the one he loves. And for Steve Rogers, he had a date just before he sacrificed himself in the ice. And then look at how his love story evolved with Captain America the Winter Soldier and Civil War. Yeah, I know about him and Sharon Carter, but let's put that aside for this topic. His love story started started with Captain America 1 and got its happy ending with Avengers Endgame. Marvel took 8 real-life years to develop his story arc, and look where it's landed. In terms of the movie timeline, it started back in the 1940s and did not get its final touch until the year 2023, which again executes the third formula, taking time to develop a love story. Bruce Banner and Black Widow's friendship was hinted at in Avengers 1, which again ultimately paid off in Avengers Endgame, following each of the Marvel formulas to establish a romantic relationship. Same goes for Scarlet Witch and Vision, who took 2 years off before Avengers Infinity War, and even though we as the audience never got to see how they lived their life in those time period, but we certainly can figure out that the attachment is deep because they live off of each other. I mean, these two literally are powered by the same stone. They derive their powers from the same source, which eventually brings a sad but satisfying ending to their story arc. They still have the Disney Plus TV show that will showcase their relationship in a more detailed manner. Last but not least, Peter and MJ. The entirety of Spider-Man Homecoming was Peter going after Liz, but ultimately failing to be in a relationship. But while those things were going on, Marvel managed to show MJ in the background, slightly hinting in every scene she is that she will be a prominent character in Peter's life. And that's where Spider-Man Far From Home shows up. Why do you think this version of MJ and Peter's love story was different and unique? It's because Marvel approached it with the same 3 formulas they do with every other love story. And why wouldn't they be when it works like a charm and the audience has no issues buying the story too? After watching all the MCU movies over and over again, this is what I came up with. This is what holds all the love stories of the MCU relatable, accountable, and enjoyable. It makes everything much more realistic and makes the audience think it's not just some fairy tale, but it's happening in real. And that's what Marvel has succeeded all the way along. It's tough writing a love story when their superhuman powers are involved, but they do it by narrowing down the power aspect and just by keeping the human aspect of it, because that's what makes everything relatable. And you know, when you can relate to things you see on screen, you're bound to go back again and again to enjoy those happy moments as much as you want. And that's it for today. I hope you liked my explanation and theory about the 3 formulas that Marvel executes every time they have to portray a love story on the big screen. I'm the Canadian lad, and if you enjoy the videos that I make, please grab the subscribe button and give a thumbs up, which helps me immensely. Until then, I'll see you lads in the next one.